So today we'll be talking about the future of banking and banks, especially with our Meen.World app, which is the first Arab AI and blockchain-powered eKYC-as-a-service platform. We are building this platform on top of a digital identity app that we built called AnaMeen. AnaMeen is Arabic for "Who am I?" So before we start, my name is Rami Karmi. Below are my social media handles. If you need to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'm Rami Al-Karmi, and most of the social networks, my handle is Al-Karmi. Before we start, I'm involved in many organizations, but mainly I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at the Jordan Ahli Bank, which is the first Jordanian bank registered in Jordan 65 years ago. And I co-founded a company fully owned by the bank called Ahli Fintech, which is focused on innovating and disrupting the financial sector space in the Middle East. I'm also a member of the Cross-Industry Innovation Group at NASA, which I'll be talking a bit about, a board member at Ra'id Arabi School, and an advisory board member on a number of organizations, including Unreasonable Group in the US, Fintech Galaxy in the Middle East, Think Partner Network also in the Middle East, and Roy B AI Robots in the US. Quick point of caution, I'm a Gemini, so there are values of bringing in Geminis into the innovation space. However, I use this metaphor to describe why you need a Gemini mindset. And some people, every time I show this, some people think I wear makeup, but this is, of course, a nice intro to our presentation. It's a neural style transfer model within AI. So I'm a big fan of the Joker, and being a Gemini, this is part of my identity. Please allow me to introduce my team as well, the crazy geeks within Ahli Fintech, disrupting the space, and the team behind building the Meen.World and AnaMeen platforms. 4 years ago, I was invited to join a select group within NASA called the Cross-Industry Innovation Group. And this group is a hand-picked group of around 50 to 70 chief innovation officers and high-ranking innovation officials from the Googles, the Teslas, the Microsofts, and in many, many different industries that NASA put together. And across those past 4 years, we keep meeting once a year. We get an amazing VIP behind-the-scene tour, and basically spend some time delivering what we call Innovation X Talks. So every industry representative, every chief innovation officer within those different sectors comes in as cross-industry experts, and we present within 15 minutes something similar to TEDx talks about specific innovation interventions that we designed in our industry. And this basically brings us to, last year I had the pleasure of presenting the Jordan Ahli Bank journey, our cross-industry innovation journey, and which made me start thinking how globally relevant this model is. Of course, one of the main things we focus on is adopting a 10x mindset. How can you grow things 10x versus the mindset that looks after linear growth or 0.1%, 10% growth year on year. And this, of course, requires disrupting the mindset, disrupting your approach, and basically adopting what I call just because it worked in the past. So this is a slide I use in all my presentations. And adopting this 10x mindset requires breaking all the rules and reshuffling what you're accustomed to doing. So if we ask ourselves, if we try to name an industry that is immune from disruption, and I dare you to find one. So no industry has basically survived disruption. No industry has disruption immunity. And if we look into the Ubers, I'm sure you've seen this slide before, the Ubers, the Airbnbs, and Facebook, Instagram, Netflix, and what have you, they all represent the world's largest something without having the assets. So Uber is the largest taxi company, owns no vehicles. Airbnb is the largest accommodation provider and owns no real estate. Facebook media provider with no content, Instagram photos with no cameras, and what have you. But I know you've seen this slide before, but those 6 companies, there's something very interesting about them, which is none of them existed 20 years ago. And ideally, what's special about their model is a 10x approach, or what we call the abundance model. So most of the rivals, or if we look at Uber, for example, the taxi companies, they focus on scarcity. They look for a license so that they have something special, a license, and they own assets. They try to bring more and more assets into their business model as the main driver of their ability. While what Uber was able to do is focus on abundance, whereby and the rest of them, whereby that was the real magic, underlying magic that allowed them to unlock huge growth potential, and of course the 10x growth that we looked at. Let's look at a small example, which I always use in modeling our thought process and what we looked at in terms of banking. So Blockbuster video has a known story, but I like to look at it in a special lens. So in the year 2008, Blockbuster videos had around $4 billion in revenue. And towards the end of the year, their CEO said clearly, neither Redbox nor Netflix are even on our radar screens in terms of competition. And of course, rightly, they had this, during this year, they had around $4 billion of revenue. 1 year later, just 1 year later, by end of 2009, Blockbuster was closing down, everything must go. And we all know the story, how Netflix model boosted and Blockbuster went bankrupt. Building on this, I'm fascinated with the business model generation approach by Alex Osterwalder. He's a close friend, and we've done many interventions together. If you don't know Alex, please Google him. His first book was the business model generation book, followed by the value proposition design, and recently he has a new book called The Invincible Company. So if we follow his model and try to basically create a bank's business model, banks' business models are very simple and straightforward, although we see many services and products and features. But if we look into a clear business model, it starts with a value proposition that is split under 2 pillars. One, we provide deposit solutions at lower interest. 2, we provide credit solutions at higher interest, and the margin is our main business model driver. Our customer segments are banked depositors, be it personal or companies, and banked and unbanked borrowers, also be it personal and companies. Our revenue stream is we get interest income, which is the difference between the deposits and the point I mentioned earlier in the value proposition. We have fee income and investment returns. That summarizes our business model. And the sad part is that this business model has been the same business model since the year 1472 till today, which screams out a Blockbuster rerun alert. Anytime we will see some disruption in this space, while what really banks think is when you ask them, what are you doing towards disruption and what's happening in the space, they think that banks are immune. Just like all industries, this is the main thought process, but banks think they have a really special immunity going around. And of course, we have the license issued by central banks, and we have the trust. People always argue that banks, everyone trusts banks. But with our new models now today and our new reality, if, God forbid, an ATM network goes out of order for maybe 4 hours, no one trusts this bank. If, God forbid, there is a leakage on privacy or on security or on data, definitely no one trusts that bank. So the trust, which is the main value proposition, if you may, or the main immunity driver towards why would you be immune as a bank, trust is no longer on the table, and it's a very fragile shield, if you may, towards immunity. So my question always to banks is disrupting ourselves really crazy? Why do we have to wait till we get disrupted? Why don't we actually start by disrupting ourselves? Is this crazy? And of course, the immunity system comes in. I call it mothership core bank steps in and says, no, we're doing great. And what really is answering is something I call the fear driver. There's this amygdala part of the brain that is really how we process fear. And that's why, if you notice, most of the news focuses on the headlines and what have you, focuses on the fear and how we can basically that's the main model of why would we think of fear earlier than the rest. So initially the disruption of banks started with what we call Fintechs, financial technology companies. And those Fintechs initially started by jumping at the fringes. And so you see them earlier hitting on payment, on personal financial management team, lending, investment, but none of them hit the core banking. And that's why banks thought earlier that we are immune and Fintechs are only jumping on the fringes. However, the question is, and that's a model we adopted, are those Fintechs really jumping on the fringes, or are they valuable partners for the future? Are they mainly helping us, pushing us toward innovation and adopting new models as a business model? And of course, we only looked at it from a lens of disruption and how can we make sure Fintechs don't hurt us as banks. However, a new rival came in, we call TechFin. And TechFins are technology-first companies that offer next-level financial services. And those are really transforming the customer experience in a new manner that is dwarfing what Fintechs were trying to do. And if you still don't know what TechFins are the Googles, the Apples, the Facebooks, and the Amazons. And they're mainly, we've heard about Libra with Facebook. I know they shut them down, but definitely they're working on something new else that will be able to maneuver the regulatory models that were slapped in their face to shut down Libra. Apple Card was out there, and you know how disruptive that card model was. Google did something with Citibank called Cash. The Cash account is a disruption into this space as well. And the question is, are we playing Hunger Games? Do we want to wait till we play those Hunger Games, or do we screw business as usual? And that's how the main mindset driver is towards this approach. And I would like also to show you a few trends towards the future and what mainly is driving this futurism approach within banks. So initially, we remember looking at wallets as our main value holder. This is where the bank stuff is, the money, it's in the wallet. But today, I can easily leave my wallet at home, while my phone is what really, I can't really survive a day without my phone. And that begs the main question to banks. Are you really, do you really want to focus on being inside the wallet, so the money and the cards, or you should shift your attention towards being in the phone, so being mobile first as an operator? Another trend I call the unconscious banking. So today we ride in an Uber, we arrive, we slap the door, and we receive an email with the invoice, and the money has been paid. The transaction happened in the back end, card on file, and it's done. So I know this is might look very trivial, but this is an initial movement toward what I call unconscious banking, so that transactions would start happening without the brain even worrying about this or even having to take any action towards running the transaction. Amazon Go as well did the Amazon Go shops, where there are no lines, no checkouts, just walk out shopping. You just step in, take your stuff and leave, and the transaction happens in the background. Another model I call experience banking, which begs the question, if I want a housing loan, do I really step into the bank asking for a housing loan, or my value, the value that I'm looking for is really a house? Do I want to get a housing loan, or do I want to have a house? And that shifts the narrative when you look into the value proposition and designing the products around that. If you support the customer in getting the real objective, which is buying the house, that's completely different from what banks today are focusing on, which is providing a housing loan. Same thing happens with credit cards. Do you want a credit card, or do you really want to travel and do shopping? So you're getting the card to actually buy an airline ticket and rent a car, then do your shopping and then come back. So if I understand the real objective behind the experience you're trying to get, which is travel and shopping and what have you, then the credit card is no longer a dumb product that is provided just to provide the current functionality. It becomes a completely different experience, and the solution out there is different. So that basically drives us towards a business model shift that begs us to step into a business model shift and avoid what is happening in different industries, just with the examples I mentioned. So if to explain it, if we took this analogy, and banks basically historically built infrastructure, what we design, license, the platforms, how we exchange money and what have you, if we consider this infrastructure just like municipalities that basically build roads and bridges and what have you. So roads and bridges with municipalities, they sat down and decided, how do we make money out of our roads and bridges? And they decided we'll do a transaction-based business model, the toll. Everyone knows the toll. So banks have the fees, which is very similar to the toll, the transaction fees, which is similar to the toll. And this basically moved gradually from you arriving to this manual window on the toll booth, paying them money and being allowed to cross the toll gate, into something very similar to what happened in Dubai, where if you know the Salik product, it's an RFID sticker that you have on your car, and there's no longer a toll booth. So this is a contactless, cashless movement of a transformation of what is happening on the ground, the simple business model, transaction-based business model, the toll. But what happened is simply an automation or a digitization of the current business model. What we're doing in banks, sadly, is we're doing the same thing. We're digitizing and automating the current business model. Today, if we look at the mobile app, it provides you with the same statement that was back in the early days when the statement was written on a paper or in a book. Today, it's on your mobile app. It's simply a mobile app that digitized the same approach, but there was no business model shift. And that's what we're inviting people to look at as banks. So the business model shift today, in our context as Ahli Bank, we looked into using the same analogy. If we were the infrastructure providers, the road, what if we looked into the whole ecosystem that is built around the road? Why don't we enable a full, a vibrant ecosystem to live within our infrastructure? And by that, we not only make money out of revenue share, but also we help those businesses prosper and grow, which automatically means they are our customers and they make money, so we make money by holding their money. And with that, we moved Ahli into becoming what we call a shared prosperity ecosystem. And we took this model a bit further by designing something we called the Shared Prosperity Organization Framework, which is something I won't discuss now. It's beyond the scope of the presentation. But this framework basically looks at everyone. So we identified 8 stakeholders that we focus on. We no longer focus exclusively on the shareholders in terms of creating shareholder value. And with everyone, we contribute value and receive value, so the shared value model, but towards meaningful progress. So this meaningful progress can be social equity, can be access to knowledge opportunities, and can be sustainable economic growth. When those 8 players play in this framework that governs them, your products and services no longer look the same, and you no longer simply focus on shareholders in terms of creating value. We designed a design thinking tool with a whole model. If anyone is interested, we can talk about this offline. We call this the Shared Prosperity Organization Canvas that allows us to design shared value creation, both contribution and receiving models. And this helps you design products and services that are shared prosperity organization ready, along with a number of tools that would allow you to rank your organization in terms of being on the shared prosperity organization index. What was music to my ears last month was Fortune magazine basically looked into this model and rated us among a number of organizations and ranked us among their, they call it the Change the World list. So with the Change the World list, we became the first Arab organization to join the Fortune Change the World list. And this put us among 4 other commercial banks that made it to the list this year. The Bank of America was ranked 15, Royal Bank of Canada 37, African Bank 46, and the Ahli Bank was at 48, which was a great stamp to show us that the shared prosperity model is globally relevant and requires moving beyond borders in terms of what we do. One of the main success stories, and this is the punchline where I focus on AI and robotics and what have you, one of our main products was built based on the shared prosperity model. And we had 11 use cases that were presented as part of the shared prosperity Change the List program with Fortune. But AnaMeen is the one I will be focusing on today. So AnaMeen is an AI and blockchain-based eKYC-as-a-service platform, which we were able, initially, we might have designed it as a tool for Ahli Bank to onboard as a digital onboarding platform, but we decided to create it from scratch as a shared prosperity organization, as a shared prosperity organization framework product, as an eKYC-as-a-service platform. And I will be explaining what this product did, but when we went live, this was an Ahli Fintech product, of course, and Ahli Bank was the first bank onboarded on this platform. We basically, it went live on the 9th of March, where Ahli Bank was able to launch the first Jordanian instant bank account service, providing all banking services with no exception, by basically being a subscriber on Meen.World, which is the AI blockchain and eKYC-as-a-service platform, and the AnaMeen verified digital identity app. We also onboarded, and the reason why we built this was we looked into the customer experience journey, and we designed many interventions around enhancing and digitizing this journey, which all went well, with the exception of a milestone I call I'm on board, where after the customer decides to join the bank, which is the same journey in any organization, there's a friction point, a major friction point between their decision and them actually being customers when I issue them an IBAN number and they have a customer ID. So before I step into the design, let's remember some key concepts together. Of course, I'm assuming all of you know what blockchain is and the special models around the different types of blockchain models and what have you. But I really, just to refresh our memory, just think of it as blockchain as a chain of records stored in a form of blocks which are controlled by no single authority, which automatically ensures immutability, security, transparency, and decentralization through the different nodes. What I really want to focus on is this keyword immutability, and it was a main driver of a main underlying magic component of the business model within the AnaMeen platform. So we looked into blockchain and specifically adopted blockchain because of immutability. We also looked into deep learning. And of course, you know today that with the different layers of neural networks, the enhanced with the major computing power today available, you can go up to 100x and even more hidden layers, which makes the deep learning neural network basically very close to mimicking the human brain, allowing us to adopt many applications of deep learning today, including face match and recognition, face liveness, and the ability to detect tampered IDs. This basically brought us to build the AnaMeen platform, which was proudly built and incubated at Ahli Fintech as a company. It's the Middle East's first live eKYC-as-a-service platform, and it's the second Middle East KYC platform after the UAE data sharing block-based KYC consortium. but we launched ours as a platform. So it's the first regional blockchain eKYC Oracle implementation, and it's the first global blockchain Oracle Cloud use case to move from the cloud to on-prem based on a request from the Jordanian government for data sovereignty, to make sure that our information, our IDs, are not on the cloud. So we're able to move it on-prem using Oracle blockchain technology, and we are the first blockchain Oracle use case to actually move from the cloud to an on-prem setup. Earlier last month, we signed a partnership with Zain, which is the largest telecom provider in the Middle East. And with that, Zain was able also to use the AnaMeen platform along with other partners to provide their customers with telecom services without having to show up in the branches. So let me step into how does the solution work and explain a bit on the model and how we operate. And basically, the application is the platform is two parts. There is a solution, an app available for free on iOS and Google Play called AnaMeen. You simply download it by going to anameen.me. And again, a reminder: AnaMeen means who am I? So it's your identifier. Who am I in Arabic is AnaMeen, and it has a nice pun it has a nice rhyme with the name. And there's another platform called Meen.World. Meen.World is our B2B portal to support companies that utilize this service. So let's focus on AnaMeen initially. AnaMeen as a platform targets individuals for now, and we are finalizing our second phase where we will be adding corporates as well, so you can identify corporates using the AnaMeen platform. The app starts by asking you to use the phone to upload your ID, and once you do, the AI engine detects fake and tampered and fraud IDs. So you don't upload a scan of the ID. The app asks you to upload the actual ID using the app. And just to give you a quick idea, we might have overfitted the model for Jordanian IDs, but today we're building a new model. We already finalized building a new model. We're rolling it out soon, allowing us to look into 170 passports and IDs of different smart IDs of different countries, which is part of our expansion plan beyond going cross-border beyond Jordan with our AnaMeen solution. So going back to this, the app starts by AI detection of fake and tampered and fraud IDs. So you can't basically upload your ID unless. The second level is where we ask you to fill your KYC required data. So you fill information like the stuff that is not on your ID, so your income, the industry. If you are a U.S. citizen, and the documents that needs to be uploaded, then there's some stuff to identify your risk level and appetite and what have you. So you fill in this data as if you're going in to start a bank account. That's the main KYC data required. The third level is you upload supporting documents, so utility bill for a proof of location and what have you. Many of those, any supporting document that is required, you upload it, and again, the engine detects fake and tampered IDs. The fourth part is a part we hope to remove soon once we have law enforced on supporting digital identity, digital signatures. But today we designed this to be also relevant in countries where this law is not available. So the module asks you to upload a scan of your wet signature, so inked signature is uploaded onto the platform. And the fifth level is when you request to verify. Once you do that, the app asks you to initiate a video call with an AnaMeen agent. And in the back, towards the end, I will be showing a quick video that summarizes the experience. But the agent basically does not have the power to verify you. It is an AI engine. that shows on an augmented reality layer on top of your video, where initially we start with a face match and verification engine that takes place in less than 0.2 seconds. So around 700 checks happen in the background, all take place in less than 0.2 seconds. So we verify liveness, we run face match recognition, matching with the photo on the ID. All this takes place in 0.2 seconds, and this pops up on the screen of the agent that says Rami, for example, is verified. The agent does not have the power to override the engine. The AI engine is the main driver for recognition and verification. Also, we run background checks, so we do all the AML compliant risks and what have you, and build a risk profile classification for the customer, which at a later stage we can move, basically communicate to entities that are connected to our platform so that they don't have to run the risk profile classification. And based on the risk profile we provide and their appetite, they can take the customer into different flows. Point 8 is we ask the customer to capture his signature again on camera. So they sign, and then they show the signature again on camera, and then our AI engine and augmented reality engine recognizes the signature. It matches the signature on camera with the signature uploaded earlier. This matching happens, the AI engine does the matching and verifies that Rami, for example, is Rami and signed this on camera. So we have a footprint, a timestamped proof that this inked signature is associated with Rami and on camera. Again, this component can be taken off once we have, or once the law is out, or once we step into a country that already has a digital signature approved law in place and enforced. Point 9 is once this happens, the agent basically runs some legal jargon. Do you accept that the data you provided is authentic and what have you? And once he does that, the customer approves, and the AnaMeen record is created. Once you have a digital identity record created, it gets replicated across the different nodes, and the smart contract basically creates a blockchain version of this record, which makes it securely immutable. Once we have this AI verified ID, the blockchain securely makes it immutable, and the record basically is replicated across the different nodes. Once I have this ID, I still today have hardly have anything, hardly can do anything with the ID beyond it being a verified identity, unless we step into part 2 where Meen.World steps in. Meen.World, or the Arabic of AnaMeen, the world of Meen, is a platform that hosts different partner portals. So Ahli Bank, Zain, and the different partners that we have, they subscribe as Meen.World partners, and each of them gets their own portal. I will explain what the portal does. But the Meen.World basically is the platform that hosts all of those portals, basically to serve the B2B offering of our artificial intelligence and blockchain-powered platform. This portal also classifies partner based on the type of partner and provides tiered access to the information. So my full KYC data is available for banks, but if it's a telecom company or if it's an insurance company, then I get tiered access as an organization, tiered access based on my partner classification. So what happens is, let's say I decide to, as a customer, I decide to onboard myself into one of the Meen.World partner organizations. So, for example, if you want to join, if you want to create a new account for AnaMeen, for Ahli Bank, you simply go to ahli.com/new, and you basically request to create an instant account. Now, this instant account in the back end, what does it do? You request the customer's national ID, and then this app requests KYC access. Upon KYC access, the customer receives a notification. Let's say this is Ahli Bank, and your app, your AnaMeen app, gets a notification that says Ahli is trying to access your KYC record. So this notification is followed by new customer consent. With a question, do you authorize providing access? That pops up on the AnaMeen app, requesting this new customer consent. Once this consent is granted, the KYC data access is provided to this organization. So in the back end, the bank did not have to talk to Rami as a customer. Simply, I provided my national ID. The bank portal requested access to my KYC data. And based on the request for the KYC data, the bank AnaMeen portal talked to AnaMeen app, requested my access, I granted the access, and the data was provided. This is also GDPR compliant because we also look into data cleansing. For example, expiry, upon ID expiry, I receive a notification that my ID, for example, will be expiring in a month. And this basically triggers me as a customer to perform an update. Once I run this update, the update is pushed once to Meen.World and upon verification. And because this is GDPR compliant, before pushing the update to the subscribers, to the corporates, I'm asked, who of those partners would you like to push the update to? Because I might have stopped my relationship with one of them, or I don't want to push this update towards all of the entities. Upon approval, this Meen.World update is pushed to all the partner portals, which means me as a customer, I only need to do my KYC once and my update once, and anyone connected to me as a platform automatically gets this data and gets this update. I don't need to update and send my information physically to each of every organization utilizing this platform. Of course, this was designed, Meen.World was designed to look at a wide spectrum of models. The simplest format of them is a simple web portal whereby I just simply log in as an organization. I add the national ID, I submit, and the process happens in the background just as I explained. And it goes up to a full API stack with a proper queuing system that allows you to push, pull the data, wait for a hook, depending on the customer journey that you would like to design. With our partners, we start by a customer journey and a tech workshop, whereby this helps the partner design this journey and accordingly customize their requirements based on the APIs and the queuing model that we designed. So you can build something on top of your CRM to push the customer after they have this account. Let's assume I started a process of onboarding, but I didn't have an AnaMeen app. So the customer journey pushes me, for example, to download the app, create my account, and then once my account is created, we push a ping towards the system, towards the CRM of the entity that brought this customer on board and tells them, Rami created this AnaMeen account. So be my guest, ask them back. So they run their own model to push back their customers and create the account accordingly. So we have this wide spectrum of services, of models of integration. It can start by a web portal that you can get, that you can, as a partner, start using within 10 minutes of signing the subscription agreement, or a full API stack that can be designed and customized according to the customer journey that you would like. So what's the value of bringing this, of designing this and bringing this on the table? First of all, this removes the current KYC and onboarding challenges and friction points that allowing for a much more enhanced customer experience and provides exponential growth capability for the organizations that are on board. It also brings shared prosperity to financial inclusion and at the base of the pyramid level. So we're bringing, today we have partners in telecom, insurance, brokerage, payment service providers, PSPs, banks, microfinance institutions, and wallets. They all are joining this platform, and we're providing financial inclusion through that. So this builds on to the shared prosperity model I explained earlier. This also allows, through exponential technologies, mainly the use of AI and blockchain in this case, to create a better and much more secure KYC process than the current human-based know your customer KYC model. And it removes the redundancy from customers performing multiple KYC checks and data cleansing across all KYC-centric relationships with different business entities. So I don't have to go through this redundancy with every organization that I sign up with. I do this once, and those multiple KYC and multiple checks and data cleansing all happen centrically with AnaMeen without having to do this across different platforms. Of course, this also, in terms of national security, allows constant visibility and instant abilities for national security entities to intervene on a nationwide integrity level with the KYC records and KYC activities. So once we identify a threat, a KYC-based threat, the national security can, this provides them with the intervention ability to request access to see what is the exposure, how many, where is this KYC record utilized with different organizations, and this allows them to quickly be able to intervene and connect with those organizations and know what type of exposure is built around this type of KYC record. And if, for example, we have an AML issue or some risk fraud or what have you. So with that, explaining the model, I would like to show you a quick video that summarizes the AnaMeen journey and how we move forward, and then we can jump into questions if needed. So please watch the video.
بالأول شو اسمك الرباعي؟ سيف محمد سلامة جبر. شو رقمك الوطني؟ 98 17 76. لو سمحت بدي أطلب منك توقيعك الرسمي بالحبر على ورقة بيضاء وتورجيني الورقة الموقعة على الكاميرا. هل تؤكد أن المعلومات والمستندات والوثائق التي قدمتها دقيقة وصحيحة وحقيقية وكاملة، وأنك تتحمل المسؤولية الكاملة عن دقتها وصحتها؟ نعم. مبروك، هيك صار عندك حساب AnaMeen فعال وجاهز للاستخدام. شكرا لوقتك ولاختيارك AnaMeen، نتمنى لك نهار سعيد.
So a quick reminder, and I leave you with the thought before we start any questions, just because it worked in the past.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rami, for the wonderful talk. Do we have any questions?
Thank you very much. Actually, that was a very insightful session, Mr. Rami. Actually, my question is related to the privacy. And as I understand, actually, you have two technical solutions. The first one is to identify the identities of the customer, and the other one is to give something like centralized pool of identities. Isn't that true? Which is the Meen.World, and the first one is the AnaMeen.
Meen.World is our portal for entities that are subscribed, so companies that are subscribed to be able to access digital identities. And yes, AnaMeen is the B2C side. It's the customer-facing app that allows you to build your own digital identity. Yes.
Okay. So if I'm a partner in your in Meen.World, I can get the information of the identity of any customer that
after
is
consent. They have to provide consent.
So as a customer, I have to confirm that this partner.
That's the trick.
This is great. The other thing is, what about security? Of course, this is gonna to raise some security issues related to this. You know, when we have centralized place that contain all these identities, I think we have some security issues. If you can tell us about these security issues and how you actually handle these things. And the final thing, actually, you were using a machine learning model to make the recognition of to make the recognition and verification of the customers. The question is, I know that you are testing this model. Of course, you have tested this model. And what was the accuracy of your recognition and verification model? And thank you very much for this session. It was really nice.
So on the security side, we launched this under two phases. The first phase, we were on the cloud. So we utilized we inherited many of the security features that are built in within Azure and the Oracle Cloud. So our platform, the logic is on Azure, on Microsoft's platform, and our blockchain and data is on Oracle's cloud. So as you know, the models, the current repository, for example, with Oracle, includes an AI engine for autonomy. Basically, the security threats, it's all handled within the model. However, when we started launching the platform with different partners and started scaling, we went to the national security partners, so the government basically, and we asked them to audit the platform because we know how risky this is. And especially when we started onboarding banks and telecom companies onto the platform. And the request was to remove the solution off the cloud and put it on-prem within Jordan. And with that, basically, we partnered with one of the telecoms in Jordan, Zain. They have a solution called the Bunker, which is a disaster recovery site, super high-grade security level, and it was basically authorized by national security. They accepted the level of security provided within that. That's, of course, the physical security. Then there's many stuff that we did internally in terms of making sure that it's solid and tight-proof internally. One point I want to mention is we adopted zero knowledge, of course. So I can't access any of the records, even as someone running the platform, without getting consent of the customer. And we initially started actually receiving requests similar to your question from entities. And can we promote, for example, our service to your AnaMeen customers? Can we send notifications to them? Can you please provide their data so that we can target them? And luckily, we implemented zero knowledge so that we have we can resist any temptation towards the pressure that we get in terms of accessing this data. In terms of your second question with the models, one thing we did with the IDs, and I frankly can't release any more information without non-disclosures, but I'll give you this tip. With the initial IDs that we did in Jordan, we trained the model on 5,000 IDs, and we basically have a second layer today because we integrated with the passport authority, the ID and passport department. So we verify your identity against a copy of the ID that you uploaded via the AI, and then we verify it again against a copy of the actual ID picture that comes from via an API that comes from the passport and the ID department. I can't claim 100% accuracy. That wouldn't be scientifically correct, but we have zero cases that have fraud. And remember that although the agent that runs the verification has zero authority to override the engine, but he is present, he or she is present. So it's our second layer of review to make sure that nothing goes wrong with the engine. The engine physically says that Muhammad is Muhammad, but the agent has to press accept to take the call. So I'm hoping we designed this airtight. I'm hoping no gaps, or if any gaps show up, we come in and create interventions to ensure that they're mitigated. But today I'm pretty confident we have a solid solution in place.
Thank you very much. Actually, I have one more thing. Actually, you said that the model was overfitted, but when we are saying that the model is overfitted, this means that it will not work good, and when we have real cases.
I meant it in a different manner. So we designed the application to be able to verify IDs globally. But initially, we overfitted the training towards Jordanian IDs, and that was revision 1. And we no longer apply this model because it was overfitted for Jordanian IDs. And now phase 2 was live a couple of weeks ago, where 170 countries, passports, IDs, and what have you, are available. And when you operate these models, you go iterative, so you design things as you go, just to make sure that stuff goes in. If we haven't done that, we would have lost launching the service early March, which meant that during the lockdown, many of the clients that wanted, that basically depended on this solution to have their bank accounts created during the lockdown, we couldn't have served them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Excellent questions, by the way, Mohammed.
So
excellent job.
Do we have any more questions? Okay, thank you once again, Mr. Rami, for that excellent talk.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure.
Same here.